On this edition of Southern Newsweek, a second Wanaka-based snow sports star wins gold at the Winter Olympics. Businesses in Central Otago are worried how they'll survive the pandemic. And there's a call out for many more street signs to feature famous women. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Wanaka's Nico Porteous claimed New Zealand's second gold medal of this year's Winter Olympics last weekend after winning the free ski halfpipe finals. He was one of two Porteouses in the final, with his older brother Miguel also qualifying in the same event. Their parents watched the action on a big screen in Wanaka and say they're pleased and proud with what their sons achieved.
A cheer for the men's free ski halfpipe competitors. Skiing enthusiasts stayed warm and dry at the Olympic fan zone in Wanaka on Saturday as 20-year-old local Nico Porteous became the first New Zealand man to win a Winter Olympic gold for New Zealand. His 22-year-old brother Miguel was also competing and finished 11th place. And their parents, Chris and Andrew Porteous, couldn't be prouder.
Yeah, I mean, we're proud of him. We're proud of Miguel that, he got the final and skied his heart out, and proud of all the New Zealanders that, absolutely gave everything they had, and, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Nico's success also saw him given the honour of being flag bearer for New Zealand at the Games closing ceremony earlier today. After all the pressure of the build-up, he's delighted his efforts and those of his team have resulted in an Olympic gold.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. Put so much work into my skiing over the past few years and just the relief that I'm feeling right now, and it really feels like it's just all paid off.
Nico's proud his older brother Miguel was also able to compete alongside him as a finalist in the same event.
He's my inspiration, he's my role model, he's my best mate, and to have my arm around him at the bottom when I realised that we won, we won, because we're brothers and we're a team, we stick together.
Their father Andrew Porteous says the family have enjoyed the many years helping both sons achieve Olympic greatness.
Maybe some sacrifices, but generally it's been a really great time, and we're very lucky and privileged to have spent that much time with our boys.
And their mother Chris doesn't mind having to watch their son's success from the other side of the world.
It'd be nice to be right there at the moment and give them a hug and cheer, but it's okay. They don't need their parents around there now. They're adults and for them to enjoy.
That hug may have to wait a little longer. When Nico won bronze as a 16-year-old 4 years ago, he took part in a medal parade through Wanaka with fellow medalist Zoe Sadowski-Sinnott. But this time he's planning on taking some well-earned time off overseas and returning to New Zealand around July. In Wanaka, the South Today.
Hospitality bosses say staff stand-down rules due to contact with COVID-19 infected customers or suppliers are a minefield. The rules force staff to self-isolate at home, often in flats shared with other co-workers, which has many business owners worried about going bankrupt.
Frustrated by uncertainty, Hospitality NZ Central Otago Vice President Glenn Christensen says when a COVID-19 infected visitor walks into a restaurant or hotel, there's blurred lines on what constitutes a casual contact and what is a close contact.
We are looking at ways that we can protect our staff and also protect our guests that come and stay with us. So it's an intriguing day-by-day battle that we are looking at.
There's now almost a dozen hospitality locations in Queenstown identified as where someone with COVID-19 came in close contact with staff or other customers. Christensen worries how easily the disease will spread amongst hospitality workers who often share flats together.
We are very worried about what's going to happen in Queenstown, remembering that a lot of those staff work in multi-venues. They also live together in flats and apartments that have a lot of people living in them. So Queenstown is really getting ready to batten down the hatches.
A recent survey by Hospitality NZ shows nearly 60% of hospitality business owners are preparing for insolvency within the next 3 months. And as Omicron case numbers grow, the viability of even more businesses could be affected. Christensen says it's time for the government to support the hospitality industry until times get better.
There's a lack of government support financially. We need the government to make those hard decisions to be able to support staff and businesses through Queenstown, and don't forget that businesses need support as well. Otherwise, when we get ready to thrive and revive when we come out of this, we won't be in a position to do so.
The Hospitality NZ survey also reveals that business is currently at least as bad as any other time during the last 2 years. In Cromwell, the South Today.
A lobby group has been formed in Dunedin with the aim of addressing what's seen as a gender imbalance in the city's street names. And the Women o Ōtepoti Recognition Project have now got the ear of Dunedin's Deputy Mayor as they campaign to improve the situation.
Ethel Benjamin Place in North Dunedin is one of the city's most well-known streets, named after a famous local woman. She was New Zealand's first female lawyer. But members of the Women of Ōtepoti Recognition Project say there's still a disproportionate number of male to female street names.
Less than 50% of the street names are named after women. It kind of sticks a little bit with us, and we're very keen to see that remedied. Women make up 50% of the population. We'd like to have 50% of the street names.
The gap was noticed by Lucy Gray and Nadine Simpson while discussing equal pay for women a few years ago. They were impressed by Jean Parker, who lobbied for equal pay in the 1950s, but found she hadn't been recognised with any form of public naming. The pair say the movement they started has been gathering steam, with new members joining up, with the aim of leaving a legacy for future generations.
That idea has evolved a little bit, which is really exciting. We've got some new allies on board, and we've talked about broadening this out to include a bigger number of women in Dunedin who have been very important in the history, creating our political space and health. And we want to be able to show the people of today what came before, because we think it's really important for our younger people to see what has happened.
And they've now found a valuable ally in Dunedin's Deputy Mayor, Christine Geary. She's aware of the need to address the gender imbalance and also has a personal connection to the campaign.
One of my great aunts was mayoress of this city, and her contribution during the war years is not documented as far as I can find in the archives, and that would be true of many women in the city in terms of the record of their work.
Geary says many women, from the suffragette movement onwards, have made outstanding contributions to the city, many of them unrecognised, a situation she'll work to see improved. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The potential threat of Omicron infecting staff has forced Dunedin's Ocho Chocolate to close its doors to the public. The local company originally planned to just close during the week, but has now decided to extend the closure to weekends as well.
Take care.
Closed to the public, Dunedin's Ocho Chocolate Company is no longer open for public tours of the factory or for the over-counter purchases at the shop due to the threat of Omicron. General Manager Angela Howe says the decision was made to protect factory workers at the small craft chocolate company from COVID-19.
Because if this becomes a location of interest, then they'll have to go into self-isolation and we'd lose a couple of weeks' production. And we're just not in a position to be able to do that at the moment.
The decision was made to ensure the factory team can keep busy manufacturing chocolate bars and products, building stock back up after strong sales over the festive season.
And we had a really busy Christmas and we're still building up reserves after Christmas. So at the moment, if we were to shut, if the factory were to shut, we quite have a severe impact on our business. Whereas if we have 2 months finished supply on the shelf, we could shut without it being such a big deal.
But chocolate lovers don't have to worry, with manufacturing continuing as normal. Ocho's range of products are still available to buy outside of the factory shop.
If you are wanting to buy chocolate, obviously you can't come down to the factory, but you can go to ocho.co.nz and you can either order online there, or if you want to support your local retailers, I'm sure they would like you to, you can find our stockists online as well.
Ocho is hoping to reopen its doors to the public once the threat of Omicron has eased. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, donations head from the south to Tonga, and a former member of Parliament has a new job. Welcome back. A container load of food and supplies is ready to be sent to Auckland on their way to assist struggling families in Tonga. The island nation is still rebuilding in the aftermath of January's volcanic eruption and tsunami, with families and friends in Dunedin keen to support their loved ones.
More than 30 boxes filled with much-needed items ready to be sent overseas. The Dunedin Tongan community celebrated the week's collection efforts at Dunedin Hospital yesterday, with piles of donations ready to help Tongan communities.
Overwhelming support and willingness to donate to help not only our family here, but also to feel better and feel relieved with the stress that they've been under for for the whole week last week, but knowing that they have something to offer back to support their families in Tonga.
Tonga is still recovering from the eruption and tsunami last month. The local collection drive saw a range of canned food, rice, toiletries and general goods donated, along with more than $1,600 in cash, all aimed at helping those impacted by the disaster.
And obviously what we see today is the outcome of the love and support that's been shown or demonstrated by the Southern District Health Board staff.
Hospital patients and staff led the contributions for the donation drive, supported by other groups in the community.
It was really humbling and heartfelt gratitude and appreciation for what they have put in place to support our Dunedin Tongan community.
Donations are still being collected to support Tonga. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Former Dunedin South MP Claire Curran is taking on a new role. The politician has been busy working on writing her first crime novel, but now she's taken on a new leadership role at a leading suicide prevention organisation.
Walking into her new office, former Dunedin South Labour Member of Parliament Claire Curran has moved on from the world of politics, but she's still wanting to make a difference, joining Dunedin's Life Matters Suicide Prevention Trust as its co-manager.
At the end of 2020, I was asked to go on the board of Life Matters Suicide Prevention Trust and also the board of the Dunedin Night Shelter, and I think they both represented two issues that were really dear to my heart, which were homelessness and mental health.
Curran faced many challenges during her time in Parliament and has spoken publicly about the stress of the political environment and being under the spotlight.
I am, like the rest of you, a human being, and I can no longer endure the relentless pressure that I've been under. I've got some of my own lived experience and, it's part of my journey and about giving back to the community.
But the flip side to the stress of parliamentary life was her regular work with constituents. She believes the work Life Matters does runs along similar lines.
I really miss the constituent work in Dunedin South, and I think that the work being done here, which is offering direct support to people in mental distress, is kind of an extension of the work I was doing as an MP.
Life Matters hasn't traditionally received funding from local government. That situation could improve now Curran's on the team, especially if reforms to the Mental Health Act are made to introduce funding for peer support.
And I think we will see that changing and see peer support, people who can walk alongside you through your journey and support you and advocate for you as being embedded into the mental health systems.
Curran's position is a half-time role, enabling her to remain involved in other businesses and organisations. And her simple advice to anyone feeling distress is to reach out, either to whānau or friends, or services like Life Matters. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Dozens of farm dogs were auctioned off to new owners near Lawrence recently. The event was held as a fundraiser, with the working dog sale seeing prices of several $1,000s paid for some animals.
The Lawrence Gymkhana Club's working dog sale on Friday doubled as a good catch-up for the farming fraternity. 79-year-old South Islander Kevin Johnston, who spent many years sheep shearing in Australia, is now back home, saying he enjoys a sense of freedom of the high country and being with his dogs. His best dog was a bitch called Pat, who sold for $4,500 and will now earn her keep for her new owner doing actual mustering of sheep.
Pat's the most proficient of them. Yeah. She's sort of the oldest. Spent more time with her. but I'm only a trainer. I haven't got to work for them now.
Johnston's two other dogs sold for about $3,500 and $2,500 respectively, and he's still training other dogs for future sales.
And then I've got this young one, and she's strong-eyed.
Yes.
And yeah, she's got the makings of a really good young dog.
PGG Wrightson says the day was the biggest catalogue sale for some time, with a good demand for keen, stylish, younger heading dogs. The day's top price of $9,000 went to a 2-year-old heading dog called Stripe. There were 75 registered buyers, and between gate donations, a barbecue and entry fees, $2,000 was raised for the Tuapeka Health Centre and Waitahuna Collie Club. Near Lawrence, The South Today.
A group of Christchurch High School students and their music teacher have hit the official New Zealand music charts with a new single sung entirely in te reo Māori. Rangirua Girls' School contemporary music teacher Henry Carr put the single together with his band Dillustrate and vocals from some of his students.
Christchurch music teacher Hinare Carr is an ambassador for the mental disorder ADHD. The topic inspired him to write a song, Party in My Head, which he translated into te reo Māori. He decided to remix the song with backing vocals from music students from Rangirua Girls' School, renaming the track Tawarana. They decided to make it an official single release, with the song reaching number 12 on the Hot New Zealand Singles chart. Carr says that while it was a great feeling to make the official New Zealand music charts, it was really exciting that the song was in te reo Māori, which he says is becoming popular in mainstream music here.
And it's coming fast too. You know, it's what's happening really fast, and which is awesome because the hype behind it needs to be massive.
Last month, some of his Year 13 students joined Carr and his band Illustrate on stage at Sparks to perform Tawarana in front of 12,000 people.
Wow, having your own music arranged by Mr. Tom Rainey for the orchestra of CSO it's been a lifelong dream for me.
He was pleased his music students were able to get an early taste of performing, which he never had.
I think we were all surprised that we weren't really that nervous. Like, it was pretty relaxed compared to our other music.
Carr's already written a follow-up single, which he's going to record with his students in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, the future's more about, it's not really about me. I feel like I've done a lot so far, so it's time for some others to have a go. But yeah, I'm enjoying the ride.
And he's planning to continue with his love of teaching, sharing his expertise with the next generation of musicians, some of which he believes will blow people out of the water. In Christchurch, The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, beach volleyball competitions are held in Christchurch, and a new colourful mural in Dunedin has an environmental theme. Welcome back. 240 tonnes of sand was dumped in Christchurch's Cathedral Square as part of the annual New Zealand Beach Tour volleyball tournament. The annual event kicked off last weekend with qualifying rounds, and there were Commonwealth Games spots at stake.
Sand, sun and tan bodies have filled Cathedral Square, with beach volleyball players from across the country bumping, blocking and bunting their way through the qualifying heats. Christchurch is hosting a round of the New Zealand Beach Tour volleyball tournament. Hot weather making the atmosphere beach-like as players battled each other in the makeshift arena, which took 3 40-hour days to set up.
So we've dumped a whole bunch of sand to really bring beach volleyball to the people, bring it into the city centres, and that's happening worldwide, where the public are being able to witness beach volleyball in a man-made environment, and it just creates a different atmosphere and so much fun.
But along with the fun, top players are competing to qualify for the 2020 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham in July.
All of the top players are chasing one position, and so we expect it to be really tight amongst the men. There are 4 teams with a realistic chance of qualifying for the Com Games. New Zealand has already qualified a spot in the men and the women. In the women's division, there are effectively 2 very strong contenders for that spot. So a lot at stake for the players.
The Canterbury 5-star event is the 4th stop of the 2020 Beach Tour, which continues on to Mount Maunganui and Auckland in March for the remaining games.
We're really pleased to be in Christchurch again this year. We expect to be back next year. The council's been so supportive, giving us the permissions to work in the city.
With admission free, the public are encouraged to watch the competition, which continues over the weekend. Semi-finals will be played at Cathedral Square on Saturday, with the finals set to tip off early on Sunday morning. In Christchurch, the South Today.
A new street art mural is being painted in Dunedin's Warehouse district, aimed at drawing attention to the damage done by sea-bottom trawlers. The giant artwork was commissioned by a deep sea campaign group, which says sponge and coral populations on the seafloor are being destroyed by bottom trawling nets.
Creating a mural about the oceans around us. Napier-based artist Cinza is working near Dunedin's wharf area, painting a mural with a conservation message about the potential harm deep-sea trawling can have on the ocean floor. The large artwork depicts a range of vulnerable sea life, such as corals, sponges and fish species, including orange ruffy.
Specifically, they wanted to focus on the orange ruffy for this one, as it's a targeted species for deep-sea fishing, which is great because it's a very expressive-looking fish and you can have a lot of fun kind of really accentuating some of those features there.
Cinza's mural was commissioned by the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition and will include a QR code linking to a petition calling for an end to sea-bottom trawling in New Zealand. The petition's already been signed by 70,000 people, but Carly Thomas says many don't know the damage being caused by dragging nets along the bottom of the ocean.
And the main reaction we've had from people is, yep, that's a terrible thing, but is it still happening here? Like, they're really surprised. So most people think that it's already been banned in New Zealand. There's been some campaigning about it in the past, and people just thought that we'd ended it, because obviously dragging a big heavy net through a delicate ancient coral forest is not a good idea.
This is the second of 3 murals Cinza's creating for the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition, with funding coming from donations received by the group.
I've been painting walls for about 15 years now, so I've got murals all over the country and overseas. I've been very privileged for different experiences to jump around the world painting murals.
Cinza is planning to paint his third and final deep-sea trawling mural in Wellington in a few months' time. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A 2-storey doer-upper with a colourful history is for sale near Clyde. Earnslaw Station Homestead is a grand Edwardian mansion built in 1919 on what was then a sheep run of nearly 30,000 hectares. The land area has been reduced to just 20 hectares and the house is in need of some tender love and care.
A historic homestead with good bones. The nearly 100-year-old Earnslaw Station Homestead near Clyde is on the market for those not scared to tackle a doer-upper project on a pretty large scale.
This is original homestead on the station, and it had been broken down and it was sold with 200 and odd hectares 6.5, 7 years ago.
The once stately manor is now on a site of just 22 hectares. Real estate agent Gary Kirk admits the building has some water damage from a leaking roof, but insists its brick and woodwork is all sound.
It is needing of some love and care, and the owners have decided to let someone take it over to save it and make it back to its original self.
Earnslaw Station originally covered nearly 30,000 hectares of abandoned sheep country, its bare hills swarming with rabbits. In 1902 it was bought by Stephen Spain, who made a fortune selling rabbit pelts and running a cannery to supply rabbit meat to the domestic market and soldiers overseas. At the end of World War I, noted architect Edmund Anscombe drew up plans for a castle-like building in the Edwardian style of the time.
It's built in the 1920s. I think it's in reasonably good order. The timber work and that is amazing.
The homestead is for sale by deadline negotiation, with bids closing in early March. Near Clyde, the South Today.
The Christchurch New Brighton community has rallied around deaf and blind artist Donald Gibson to help build him a new art studio. He was forced to move out of his old one last year, with his new studio now just weeks away from completion.
Donald Gibson has been sculpting clay and stone artworks for 27 years. The well-known artist and sculptor has no hearing or sight, creating his artworks totally by touch. Gibson was looking for a place to do his work after his old studio at the former New Brighton School was demolished last year. His carer approached the New Brighton Community Gardens, who successfully applied for a $15,000 grant from Lotto to fund the Kitset Cabin project. And Donald's looking forward to being able to move in.
Are you
Yeah, but Donald's pretty happy. It's going to be really amazing working here for him.
The artist has a genetic disorder called Usher's syndrome and was born profoundly deaf. His eyesight has deteriorated progressively since birth until he lost his sight altogether.
A lot of the things he makes now is from his memories from the past.
New Brighton Community Gardens manager Lynn Klenner has been overwhelmed with the voluntary help they've received from the community and companies like CityCare.
So this is stage 3, kind of what we call Project Donald.
She says he was a good fit for the community garden as they cater for all sorts of people with disabilities.
We try to inspire people by having Donald here. He's just so happy doing what he does, and it can just remind us all to just live, every day.
The community garden is set to host an open house in mid-March to thank everybody who's been involved in the process of constructing the studio cabin. In New Brighton, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. Nō reira, kia pai te pou, ka kite anō.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.